Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of In From Japan Interviews. As always, I'm your host, Erroll Moss, with my co-host for the first time ever on this show, the phenomenon from Suriname, Jason Corriea.
Hey.
And we have a very special guest today, Alexa Ray Corriea.
Hi, it's so great to be here.
Hello there. It's an honor to have you, and
Yeah.
we're really big fans of your work and can't wait to dive into all the happenings and going on in your life.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got this to work out.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Scheduling is some of the hardest parts of doing stuff like
Oh,
this.
yeah.
especially in a pandemic.
Yeah. You would think, well, sometimes it's easier and sometimes it's harder. You never know. It's always up in the air. All right. So first, we're going to just kind of talk about your start, I guess. I'm trying to phrase
Wow.
that a little better, but
Your
I'm
origin
thinking,
story.
your origin
Ooh.
story, I guess. So what basically made you decide you wanted to work in the games industry? How did you get your start, and what does your career path kind of look like? What
Oh,
of the things you can talk about, of
goodness.
course.
I think I didn't get a start so much as I sort of fell into it. If that makes any sense. At the time I was many thousands of years ago in another lifetime. I was living in Boston, and I was working and going to grad school part-time at Boston University, which was a lot. And, at the time for fun, I did a lot of cosplay with my friends, did that con circuit every year, was always some Final Fantasy character. I pretty much exclusively just cosplayed Final Fantasy characters. Yeah, and this was back before Kingdom Hearts started introducing interesting women, so I was like, well, I don't really want to be anybody, so I guess I'll just be Final Fantasy characters. And I was also writing, I actually freelanced for DualShockers thousands of years ago, back
Whoa.
a little bit after they started. I don't think a lot of people know that. I was only there for I don't know, maybe 7 months. And in my grad course, I had to write a paper about, I had to take a piece of art and then sort of analyze it on using a bunch of English literature, fancy pants tropes and stuff. And everyone I know did movies or some television show or something, or like a play, and I chose Mirror's Edge, which is a video game. And I handed in my paper, and my teacher, who was this old stuffy guy, he's fine, but he was you think of an English professor, it's this guy, and he was like, well, video games aren't really art, and they don't this was a valiant effort, but I'd like you to try again. And I was like, excuse you. and I remember being really angry and just being like, no, this makes total sense. And back then it was early 2010s, so the online discourse about our games art was back when Roger Ebert was still slinging that crap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so around the time that this paper came back and I was getting angry about it, I had seen Polygon was starting to ramp up and they were looking for people, and I followed all of these journalists, and I was traveling back and forth from New York at the time. I had met Jason, who formerly Kotaku, now Bloomberg, and knew a bunch of people, and I was just like, you know what, I follow these people, they seem cool, I can write, I'm not really, I had done newspaper in high school, but I'm a good writer, I like to write, so I'm just gonna shoot my shot. And I sent in an application, and they sent me a test, which was pretty short from what I recall. And it was just here's a prompt, 3 prompts, write quick news articles. And then another one was some sort of a review, write a sample 1-paragraph review or whatever. And I did that test. And I will never forget, I was standing in the Trader Joe's in Coolidge Corner in Boston with my basket full of groceries, and my phone rang, and it was Chris Grant, and he was like, do you want to come work for Polygon? And I dropped my basket and like ran out of the store because I couldn't like the service was really bad, and I just like dropped it. I'm pretty sure there were like eggs in it and stuff, and like it went everywhere, and I ran out of the store, and I was like, oh my god, yes. And at this point I was like preparing to leave Boston and move back home to Connecticut where my family lives, and then figure out my next steps, because I didn't know what else I was going to do. Grad school was fine, but not really working out for me. And that was it. Like, I started a week later. My first assignment was E3. I was supposed to be shadowing and learning, but Tracy Leanne, who worked there with me, got super ill. And so I ended up taking all of her assignments and had to like fly by the seat of my pants. So that was like my first week in games media, and it was absolutely crazy. And like from there, like it spiraled into this thing like a decade later.
E3, did you say E3 like 2010?
2012.
Or 2012, okay.
Yeah, that was my first E3, and I just remember being so overwhelmed because like how many years had I spent like watching it, midday at work on the computer, watching the press conferences and stuff, and it was just wild to actually be there, just wild. And now it's like old hat. It's like, oh, we got another press conference to go to.
Yeah. I feel that, especially, well, I've never been to one of the press conferences, but, that's how, we met at E3, not last year, 2 years ago now? Yeah, like briefly, and I covered it as press like twice, and the third time was the one where it's like, okay, so this is what it's like to rush between appointments. But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Talk about going off in the deep end, like, you're really, really, you just had a crash course on your first week, I want to say. That must have been daunting.
It was really crazy because the person onboarding me was Justin McElroy, and at the time I was just like, oh my god, my boss is like Justin McElroy, like those guys are wonderful. And then I was basically just at like every 5 minutes turning to Brian Crescente being like, what's this, how do I do this, and him just being like, oh, just do that. And I'm a really good hands-on learner. Like that's how I learn, like by just being in it. And by the end of the week I was exhausted, and I remember sitting at like, I think maybe like a Waffle House with the people who were flying out later in the evening, like the day after E3, and just being like so tired, like more tired than I'd ever been in my life, but at the same time just incredibly wired. And like we were all that way. And I think that feeling, it's so hard to describe to people, that feeling of being like, I want to lay down and die right here where I stand, but also there's so much energy inside me that I just can't, like I can't sit still. And then there's also that kind of like post E3 mourning period where like all the excitement is gone, and for like a week afterwards you're like, oh man, remember when I was doing that? Yeah.
Okay, so how do you go from covering E3 then to settling into kind of a more stable rhythm? Do you just kind of miss the high you had, or is it an easier transition to make?
For me, I think I had a really unique experience working at Polygon in its early days, because that high never really stopped. We came back from E3, and the plan was to launch Polygon.com in the fall, but at the time we were still operating like with The Verge, like we were still publishing under Verge. Yeah, so we were, on the one hand, we were, just populating content and making plans for the future. At the same time, we're, spinning up everything. What's this new site going to look like? Is how our CMS is going to be slightly different, what we need to add to it, tags, and figuring out how, the division of labor among the team. Like, I was a reporter, and we weren't, in the beginning, we kept, the news people did news, and the reviews people did reviews, and the features people did features. And that kind of siloing was meant to keep the content pipeline like constantly going and making sure everyone had a focus. But it became really clear really early that everyone wanted to do everything. So then figuring out those pipelines and like editing pipelines and timelines for stuff, planning content out into the future. There was that Press Reset documentary that Russ Pitts was working on, and there were ideas for, big video features that required a lot of traveling coming up, and it was sort of like, okay, who's going to be traveling, who's going to be going? I remember that I didn't go in 2012, I went in 2013, but like Gamescom came pretty quickly on the heels of E3, and then like Griffin and Brian and Emily Guerra, who's incredible, they were all gone for a while, and Brian was my boss, so I was kind of like just kind of in the deep end with my swimmies, hoping I could stay afloat while he was like half a world away. And then it just sort of like we never stopped moving. Polygon sent people to every single thing. And then in the spring, I moved to New York because they wanted me to make speedrun, which was super fun and was like my entire life. And then I was, adjusting to living in New York, and it never really stopped, which is crazy to think about now that I think about those years.
Man, that's such a wild ride.
It was very wild, like Mr. Toad level wild.
And then from Polygon, you went to I don't know your exact thing, but you went from Polygon to GameSpot,
yes,
right?
I did.
No,
and
that was.
We have a lot of friends over there, so.
Yeah, that was an accident. That was a total accident.
Oh, really?
I had been. I've lived on the East Coast my entire life. I lived in Boston, lived in New York. My family's in Connecticut, and I was real tired of New England, like just tired of it. So I had come out to San Francisco for GDC a couple times, and I came out, I think in 2014, I came out to go to GDC, but also I stayed for like 3 weeks, and I stayed with friends and got to see more of the city and experience more of like what was going on here. And I just, in my heart, I was like, I have to be in San Francisco. Like I have to be in the Bay. There's something in California is like calling me. That's where I need to go. And at the time, like, I loved the people I work with at Polygon. Leaving was difficult, but I was thinking about moving to California, and I was trying to work with Polygon, being like, well, what can I relocate? Like we've had some people leave California. Can I move there? And at the same time, GameSpot reached out to me. I forget exactly who reached out to me. I had met Neha Joshi, who is now an independent media consultant, just like absolutely wonderful woman. Love her to death. I'd met her at a con. I think I had met her at like PAX East that year. And she was just so awesome and so wonderful. And through her, I met Mary Kish. And I was just like, you know what? These people are so cool.
Oh, Mary's great.
Mary's the best. And I was just like, oh, they're doing more stuff. And I initially had spoke to them about, GameSpot doesn't do a lot of investigative. We kind of want to bring a little bit more long form stuff into our coverage. Would you be interested? And I talked with them for a while, and I was sure that I blew the interview. I was like, I blew it. And I had gotten the okay to move, and I was moving to California on November 1st. And on October 31st, as I was having my last dinner with my family in between handing out candy at trick-or-treaters, GameSpot called me and were like, you've got the job. So I moved to California and like immediately started at GameSpot. And then I was there for a little over 2 years. Yeah. Wow. Geez.
Yeah. One of the notable projects you had at GameSpot was the Airship Podcast, where you covered RPGs.
Yeah. God, that was fun. That was when that was back when a lot of outlets were trying to spin up podcasts. There was sort of this big surgence and a lot of the main outlets trying to sort of bring to the table what, IGN has a podcast for every console and like the big three and like, the general podcasts and stuff. And I think a lot of the other outlets that formerly didn't have the bandwidth to do it now had people and were like, we're going to try it. And I know we had Airship, which I did with Peter Brown, who is at PlayStation now.
Yeah.
That was a ton of fun. And there was another, I have a brain injury. I can't remember the other podcast. I know there was another one. There was definitely another one.
You had the lobby, and there was one that covered horror media. I think that was Mary Kish, and I want to say
Mike Mahardy.
Yeah, Mike Mahardy, exactly.
Yeah.
Resident Knievel?
Yes.
I think it spun out into Resident Knievel eventually.
Yes.
But
it's so funny because like I was watching, what was it? Like, you know that Pluto TV app
Mhm.
Yes.
they have on like TVs and stuff? Yeah, so there's an IGN and GameSpot channel. Like, there are channels for it in like the gaming and anime section. And so like you'll look at the schedule and it'll say like Resident Knievel or something.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh hey.
yeah. I just want to say that Airship was one of my favorite podcasts back in the day, and it really gave me kind of a home because loving RPGs is kind of, well, back then it was kind of niche, and not many people were very fond of it in the open. But you and Peter Brown having that little space on GameSpot really felt like home, and it felt like I had like somewhere to go to and listen to and kind of absorb knowledge of something I really love, and it was really great.
That makes me so happy. We were really intent on doing something with like JRPGs, RPGs, because I feel like with gaming now, there's like, well, at least now it's different. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake kind of like opened everyone's eyes to like, oh, wait a minute, Japanese role-playing games, hey, an audience that formerly would never touch them. But we have such a deep love for them, and back in 2015 it was sort of still like you're like your weeby Final Fantasy like anime, like a lot. It wasn't really like the big popular thing, and I think that sort of we were trying to be advocates for like, hey, like there's actually quite a big audience. Just because we're not talking about it as much as like Destiny and Fallout doesn't mean it doesn't have a big following. And now I think of like when I was on What's Good talking with Brittany about JRPGs and Fire Emblem and Final Fantasy 15 and all that stuff, and how the people came around that, and now I'm looking at it from the other side of the table, and it's just like, wow, like there's so much love for this genre that I think people didn't realize was there, and now we can kind of be open and free.
Yeah.
Fun fact, and Jason, you might not know this either, but I think my whole career started because of Final Fantasy 15.
Ooh,
amazing.
I say career, but like
this I gotta hear
because okay, so the presentation that Greg and Tim hosted. Greg and Tim from Kind of Funny, they're great, nice guys. I was like, who are? I was asking my friend, like, who are these guys? And he was like, oh, they have a podcast called this, and like Kind of Funny, and they talk about games and stuff. And I was like, okay. And then so like, because of actually, I guess, I don't know, something about it just kind of, I was like, okay, I should write about games more. So then I started a blog that's still up, Nerd Positive blog, where I talked about like positivity and what I called like nerdy media. So like because I was a psychology major, so I was big on like positive psychology, and I was like, hey, if more people see the positive side to these things, maybe we can get somewhere with the whole negative stereotypes of these certain things.
Yeah.
Of course, now with like the MCU and everything, it's not like it's not as big of a like thing, but like there's still like there's still stigma in like certain circles. So it's so I figured, I'll write about that. So I started writing about that, and then eventually I started writing for Game Skinny and this site which is now not currently up, called Indie Hangover, and Parallax, where I write with Jason, and we started this podcast.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Which is almost a JRPG podcast.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear a terrible story about Uncovered?
Go ahead.
So
I don't know what Uncovered is, but okay.
That's the Final Fantasy 15 reveal event.
Yeah.
I think it was called Uncovered.
I didn't know. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was in the audience. I was there for that. And I had come in early to like play the Carbuncle demo and talk with Tabata-san, who has like become a friend. He's such a wonderful human. And I was I had turned in all of my stuff the night before, like so to go live in embargo, and that was when GameSpot blew the release date embargo.
Oh right.
Not my fault directly, but I was in that like chain. And I just remember feeling so awful. And like what had ended up happening was like I gave the embargo information, I handed it to everyone. Somebody published a video in our CMS without checking. I don't know who. I still don't know. Nobody would tell me, probably because I would have killed them. But I remember just being crushed, and I felt so horrible. And I was sitting at Uncovered next to John Drake, and he's just like, "You don't need to cry. Stop crying. You don't have to cry. Don't cry." I was like just ready to cry, and Greg made a joke about GameSpot blowing the embargo, and I started to cry again, and I was just like, God damn it. No. And then at the party, like Tabata came up to me, and I burst into tears. And I was like, "I'm so sorry, I ruined everything." And he gave me a hug, and he was like, "I know you didn't do it. I don't care. Get a drink. You're fine." And I was just like up and Uncovered, like trying not to like absolutely lose it. And I think that's where I met. No, that's not where I met Ray. I met Ray previously, but that's where I met him for the second time, and I told him everything, and he was like, "Oh my God." But yeah, that was a really scary night.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad. So much crying.
So, sorry, I need to move on to the next question.
No worries. I'm sorry.
This is gonna do a lot. But it's all related. So it's not like the, so going from, doing Polygon, GameSpot, What's Good Games, and then you were at What's Good Games when you were, or were you at a certain place while you were writing the Kingdom Hearts 2 book, which I actually have my copy of right in front of me?
Oh, yes. Yeah, so I'm going to try to summarize my weird career as succinctly as possible. So in fall 2016, I took a job as a brand and content manager over at Crunchyroll. Full-time job, because gotta pay those bills. Working on VRV, their new like nerd platform.
Especially in the Bay Area.
Yeah, they're like everything is all in that cluster in Soma. Like everything is in Soma.
Yeah.
So I took a job with them because things have changed in the past 6 years, but like games media did not pay what back in the day, and it was one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I need to eat, and I want to do something different, but I still need to work and stuff. So I took that job, and at the same time I started doing independent consulting because I was was it 2016 that I went? I think it was 2016. Yeah, it was 2016. Oh my God! Sorry, yes, it was 2016.
No, take your time.
I started independent consulting. I started independent consulting because I was meeting a lot of people in interviews and stuff who were telling me I had an eye for design, a knack for certain things, and I had more than one developer ask me like, "Have you considered doing this, like making games, whatever?" And at the time I never really thought about it, and then by the end of 2016 I was like, I'm gonna figure out how to do this. And I did some consulting. I worked on Middle Earth Shadow of War. I went and did a lore pass for them. And did like a story and lore pass, and that team up there is brilliant and wonderful, and I love them, and I'm a huge Tolkien nut, so that was like such a dream. And in spring 2017 was while I was consulting and working at Crunchyroll was when What's Good started. And it was really I fell into it really easy because for me it was what I was doing at, GameSpot and Polygon, only I was on video all the time. I didn't have to write anything. I could just talk. And Andrea used to live down the street, had me over, got me liquored up, and asked me if I would do it. And I was like, yes. And we got, Steimer and Brittany, and it was the four of us, had a lot of fun planning that and putting it together. And it got towards another year went by, and by that point it's sort of I felt like it was a lot. Like when you want something to work, like you make it work. And I was, holding down a full-time job with a global company. I was consulting on the side. I was, doing extra writing, all that stuff. And then I was also doing What's Good. So you're looking at like a 14-hour day. And I was just like totally running myself ragged. But when you're in it, you're in it,
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so amazing that you were able to juggle so much for such a long time. And I'm wondering, how much did you have left for yourself? Like, did you have any time to play video games, to watch movies, do anything for fun?
Yes and no. Obviously doing just from habit from being in games media, I play everything. I'm an omnivore. A new game comes out, I pick it up, I play it. I'm a firm believer if a game doesn't speak to you, like, you don't have to play it and don't feel bad for it unless you're me and you're a dice judge and you have to play everything and you got to white knuckle your way through it. So been a lot of years of white knuckling. Although most of the things I get are enjoyable, so that's wonderful. But I was also at that point, like 2 years prior, or about a year and a half prior, I had been in an accident. I was at PAX. I don't know who knows this story or how wide this went, but I was at PAX at a get together and like a sign fell off a wall onto my head and gave me a traumatic brain injury.
No.
So I was, yeah. The funny part of this, it wasn't funny then, but it's funny now, is it was the Square Enix sponsored kind of funny like meet and greet get together, and Hitman had come out that year, and it was actually a sign of Agent 47 that cracked me in the skull.
That is the most ironic thing ever.
It was super ironic, and then somebody made a joke a couple months later about how like Tabata put a hit on me because GameSpot broke the embargo for the 15 reveal. A lot of fun jokes came out of it, but not so fun physical symptoms. So I was about a year and a half into it, and like I found out later my neck and my shoulder were pretty significantly impacted, and my brain was not being nice. So I ended up taking some time. I took a couple months off. I left. Was this 2018? Yeah, this was. I was struggling when I left Crunchyroll, and then I started they laid me off at Crunchyroll. They laid off my whole team because the product didn't work. And then I went to Fandom to help them build their video games vertical. And at that point, everything was a lot. And I just took a couple months to think, breathe. And I said, you know what? I need a little bit of stability for a while. I think I'm going to put all this down and come back to it in, maybe a year or so after I've, seen my doctors and done my physical therapy and just checked in with myself and made sure I'm okay. I think a lot of people in this industry are like so willing to sacrifice their health to like make it or make the thing or do the thing. And the best piece of advice I can give to anyone is like, if you're not feeling so hot, no matter what it is, like the smallest thing, don't ignore it. Like, you stop, you take care of yourself, put yourself first, because then you'll end up in a situation like me where I was literally like, I was just a puddle on the floor. Like, it was too late. It took it took so much longer for me to get back on my feet because I just ignored it. But I'm okay now, I promise.
Okay. Are there any lingering effects you're still feeling? How's your health doing now?
I'm doing much better. I've rehabbed my neck and my shoulder. I'm an inch shorter because it squished some discs in my spine. Used to be 5'5", now I'm 5'4", which is really, really crazy to me. But yeah, I do. I have I get migraines, migraine auras, vertigo, a lot of like weird little brain stuff. I've been very open about the fact that, I've developed some anxiety issues around it. Of course, getting help, doing everything, but it is just something I keep an eye on. Thankfully, it hasn't kept me from... I've healed enough to the point where it doesn't keep me from like doing all my normal stuff. I'm just, when I go to events now, I look up. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, we're super happy you're almost at full recovery and that you're doing the things you're doing again. Because, I think the gaming space has missed your voice. And I'm really excited to see if you're going to be doing anything else relatively soon. And is there anything you can say that you're working on at the moment?
Well, I have a question regarding that. I kind of wanted to get back to the topic.
Okay, sure.
No, go ahead.
Because I do kind of have a question that's kind of in line with
Okay,
that.
cool,
so
cool.
It's a two-part question. So like, it's kind of like what I was saying about writing your Kingdom Hearts 2 book is like, what was the experience of just like writing a book about like one of your favorite games and series, like after just being in games media for a while and then like going to write a book. Or because you had to pitch it to Boss Fight, didn't you?
Yeah, my original pitch was not for Kingdom Hearts. It was for Final Fantasy IX. And we were talking about it. I was talking to Gabe about it, who's the head honcho over there. And the pitch, he was like, I really love your writing and I want you to write something, but is this the game for you? And he's like, what, if you could write about anything, what would it be? And I said, well, I want to write about Kingdom Hearts, but nobody wants to read about Kingdom Hearts because it's so freaking weird and everyone makes fun of it. And he's like, all right, there's your book. Here's your contract. And I was like,
problem solved.
Shit. Yeah. I was like, well, okay, now I'm on the hook. And at the time, I wanted to, and I was juggling all of this while in recovery. So like this was like, I pat myself on the back for this one. But I initially I wanted to write about, like I wanted to have a whole section about the inception of Kingdom Hearts. And there's a lot of rumors about how it started, but there's no
elevator.
Like the elevator pitch. Everyone has heard the story about that Nomura got in the elevator because and it's true, Disney Japan and Square Enix used to share a building in I forgot the name of the area in Tokyo, but they did. And I've heard the elevator pitch many, many times. And I do know that Nomura is just a wild Disney fan. He loves Disney, absolutely loves Disney.
Yeah.
I will never forget him coming on stage at the PlayStation Experience, I think in like the year it was in San Francisco. His shirt was black on black and it was a bunch of glittery little Mickey hits. And it was just like, I saw him on the steps of the Moscone after that presentation, and I said hello and everything, and I'm looking at his shirt, and I'm like, where did you get it? And I think he said it was custom made, if my memory serves me, and like, I would love a shirt. I want a shirt. It was so beautiful. It was a beautiful shirt.
It had belts all over it too. No, I'm just kidding.
No, oddly no, but it was glittery, and I was like, I'm down with the glitter. But he, he's a big picture, big dreamer guy. He's kind of like the David Lynch of Japanese RPGs. Like everything. Oh yeah. He has that. It might look like it's done, but he's gonna come back and something's gonna be retconned, and it's gonna be everything slots perfectly together. It's so intricate.
My friend actually got like so turned off by his recent things. He was like, he's a big Kingdom Hearts fan until the double whammy of Kingdom Hearts 3 being really disappointing to him, and also Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and he's like, I'm done with Nomura stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to keep going, because I like how this stuff gets weird.
Oh, yeah. No, if it's about memory, and it's about, memories and bonds, I think is such a sweet theme, and all of Kingdom Hearts, everything, everyone, it's about relationships, and memories kind of keeping you going, and that's what I like about it. But initially I had wanted to speak with Nomura specifically for the book, and I had interviewed Nomura many times. We'd sort of gained that circle of trust, and I messaged my friends at Square, and they said, we're okay within an hour in, but you need Disney's approval. So it ran up the chain to Disney, and Disney said no, of course, because Disney is very careful with its brands. Like this was sort of when Disney started really locking down things. It was around the time when Disney Infinity was kind of like happening but not happening. And things were really weird. So they said no, and Square was like so sad. They're like, we're so sorry, but like we can't wait to see it. So I just, used pieces of interview that like, Nomura had told me and things I had read in Ultimania and stuff like that. And the book morphed into what it is now, which is a critical analysis of like the themes of Kingdom Hearts. And I still have people coming up to me, at cons or wherever I go to talk to me about specifically the chapter about bromances, about how there's no romance.
Oh yeah.
There's no romance in Kingdom Hearts
Yeah.
because that's not what it's about. And I wrote an article about Final Fantasy 15 that got a lot of like haters on it because people were like, oh, like there's supposed to be like a romance and where's like the women in the party? And I was like, no, you don't understand. In a world of games about toxic masculinity where everyone is like bro, these 4 boys are being open with each other, vulnerable with each other. Like this is what real male friendships are. But those aren't ever the friendships that are portrayed in media. So like I think it's really important that we have this like really positive like homosocial representation of these guys being together. And for a lot of people it was like, okay, yeah, and then for a lot more other people it was like, how dare you, like that you're stupid. I think there was like a thread on GameFAQs that was like, Alexa Ray is the biggest jackass at GameSpot, and I was like, yeah, wow. I'll take it. Like this is what I care about.
That's an honor.
Yeah. But that chapter and then the chapter on like Riku and darkness and sort of conquering your darkness and mental health too.
Yeah, I love stuff about that. There was I totally lost my train of thought. Kingdom Hearts. Oh, Final Fantasy 15. Yeah, so I've seen like the people who love Final Fantasy 15 and the people who hate Final Fantasy 15, and it's usually for the same reasons like that you're talking about. And it's like, yes, I do agree that they could have allowed the woman characters to shine a bit more. R.I.P. The Aranea DLC that we never got.
Oh my god. Played by the amazing Kari Walgreen.
In book form, but it exists somewhat.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But I do love Arden because he's just so like,
oh man.
I don't know if hammy is the right word, but like
it is.
Before you find him at the end, I feel like he's kind of hammy.
The way I describe Arden is if Jesus came back to life but took revenge instead.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. I like Arden because he's not he kind of just wants to destroy everything because he had this really bad emotional thing. I feel like so many villains are like, I'm evil because I'm evil, ha ha ha, but like
I'm gonna destroy the world just because.
Yeah, and like his really like the wrongs run deep. Like he did real dirty. And I just feel like, and he's also like really flippant about it. He's very charismatic, and I'm all for like the charismatic villain. So love Arden.
I just want to say quickly, Final Fantasy 15 is one of my favorite entries because the religious illusions, the music, Arden, the whole prophecy of being the chosen one, but also reconciling what that actually means for you as a person. That all really makes it one of the top 5 for me.
I need to replay it at some point.
I would also like to replay 15, maybe like in 20 years when I'm okay, when I have time for it. Yeah, I love 15. I do.
So on the note of your Kingdom Hearts 2 book, if you could talk about it, and I know you said it was almost a Final Fantasy 9 book, but do you think you'll ever write another like video game book in the future?
I would.
Or is that kind of more up in the air?
No, I would.
Maybe you don't know.
I would love to. I've spent, I've got hopefully something good to announce soon, but I've been thinking for a long time, like if I was going to write a nonfiction book, what would I write it on? And I'm looking at, I see like Jason Schreier's doing really good work on like development stories, and all of these new boss fight authors are doing such a good job. I just heard a couple of friends of mine just made some really interesting pitches, and I'm just crossing my fingers that Gabe likes them because they're just so awesome. And if I were to write about something, I feel like I would want to write about Final Fantasy. Like I feel like everyone knows the story of like how oh my god, forgetting his name again. The guy Sakaguchi, the Gooch.
Yeah, Sakaguchi. Okay.
The Gooch.
Oh, okay.
The Gooch is
The
somebody. One of my friends used to work with him, and he always referred to him as the Gooch in front of him too, and he like didn't say anything.
Wow.
The Gooch. There's Tetsuya Mizuguchi and Hironobu Sakaguchi. They're both the Gooch. But he, how he like just made a game and then just kept making them and just tired like that really amazing Mega 64 skit, which is like not too far off from the truth. I feel like that story has been told a lot, but the story I'm really interested in is like the way that franchise has evolved over the years and the passing of stewardship from Sakaguchi to the teams that made 11 and the 12, which I everyone loves 12 and I hate it. And the Final Fantasy 13.
Really?
I have some feelings about 12.
You're not the first person I've heard say that either.
I have some very strong feelings about 12, and I also have very strong feelings about why I think it's so beloved. But we can bookmark that for the end of the conversation.
Okay.
The 13 saga, and just 14 rolling into Yoshi P, and now Yoshi P is 16. What happened with Tabata, Nomura, the split? I feel like the second era of past the golden age of Final Fantasy, I feel like that story hasn't been told yet, and like I would love to tell that story. Like I've been, without breaking a bunch of NDAs and having people like swat me where I'm sitting right now. I've been in that building. I've met a lot of people. Like I've talked to a lot of people that have done a lot for that franchise in this last stage, the last like decade basically of Final Fantasy, since maybe 2 decades, since 10. Oh God, I'm old. But I would love to write that book and tell that story and do that research. So
that would be fascinating.
That's definitely, in my pocket. Kingdom Hearts, I don't think, as much as I would love to do like a nonfiction book about the series, I do not think I will ever get cleared to do that, because Disney owns the IP and Disney has a lot of very strict rules with branding. And because I know that there's been a lot of back and forth with Disney and Square, and a lot of rumors about that Disney Plus series that we're trying to get off the ground, and like the middle grade book series was just canceled, and the author said that it was because initially the books were meant to be canon, and then the decision came down that they wouldn't be canon. And I know that Nomura and Disney are probably really concerned with something not canon being entered into this franchise when all we have are canon entries.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think it's time yet. Maybe in like another 15 years, we'll get to a point where like that people are comfortable.
So when Kingdom Hearts 4 finally comes out?
When Kingdom Hearts 4 finally comes out. If Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out in 15 years, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do if it takes 15 years.
So, I do want to move on to another question, but I did have the, so like, since as a big Kingdom Hearts fan, I have to ask you this. Kingdom Hearts 3, did you feel it was kind of, disappointing, as many people kind of understandably do? So different levels.
Yeah, there's I have, I love it because of who I am, but I do have, it's really crazy, because now that I've had all of this game development experience, I'm now like that jerk that's sitting at the table being like, well, this level design was kind of like, I can no longer enjoy anything ever again. So by the time I got to Kingdom Hearts 3, I had a lot of, I feel like some parts of it were really well done. Like it's very clear that a lot of love went into Toy Box and San Francisco.
Everybody's favorite part.
Yeah, like those were and like those were San Francisco, Toy Box, Monstropolis were all in worlds that were the stories of that world continued the stories of the franchise, and like you can slot that in. I remember being in the audience at D23 the year they announced the Big Hero 6 world, and Kaori, beautiful Kaori, who since left Square Enix, was translating and was like, what if the Baymax left in the portal got taken over by Heartless? And the collective gasp that rolled out over the audience, this like dismayed sigh gasp was just like incredible. And at that point I was like, all right, whatever this game is, I'm gonna love it. But Baymax
got Norded.
Baymax got Norded, he did. But like those worlds were so very thought out, and then you have something like the Frozen world, which the care put into it is evident.
That was.
But like I
Yeah.
don't know, like having
Weird.
all of Let It Go in it was really strange.
Yeah.
And then just having Sora, I kind of felt like Sora at the end of that. I don't know what just happened. Like that's how I felt. But
I did not like that level that much.
no, and like
not because of that, just
the
in
maze,
general.
the maze was weird. Like I felt
The
strange.
maze
yeah.
and the weird dragon that chases you or whatever.
Right, and it's like we didn't even and like the thing that all right, Frozen is like one of my favorite Disney movies. I'm one of those people. But the fact that
It's
like
fine.
the fact that the final boss was not Hans riding a damn Heartless made me angry. Like why would you have just this random wolf? There are no wolves. Well, there's wolves
Yeah.
in one segment, but like the wolf is not really indicative of Frozen, and like if you're trying to use the darkness that was in Hans and that's what you're fighting, why would it be a wolf? Like his tendencies weren't really wolf-like. I could get into God, I could just really get into that. And then the Pirates of the Caribbean world, like I don't want to collect white crabs for hours.
The crabs that are actually that are Jack Sparrow
Yeah.
but aren't Jack Sparrow. What?
Yeah, and then the whole like inserting Sora into the story and having him be the object of like, "Ooh, I'll make you king of the sea." Like, why the hell would Sora care about
Well,
that?
And the whole fact that you would think that the characters in the Pirates world at least would see Donald and Goofy and be like,
What?
what?
Yeah, yeah. And then you have like
my excuse is that Jack Sparrow at least like is drunk all the time, so maybe he sees that anyway. I don't know.
Probably.
But
But yeah, like that. And then, Tangled I felt was like probably the weakest of all of the worlds, even though it was really beautiful. I just feel like
yeah.
I felt like like the worlds were half done. Like you have half really excellent
Mhm.
stories, and then you have us going back to what you did for most of like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, where you're just retreading what happened in the movie,
I really need to know what happened with the Pixar worlds to make them like so important in the story, and that like, okay, Woody is about to fight who was it? Young Xehanort.
Yeah.
Like he was ready, and then it's like, and also Sully shoves Vanitas through
Yes!
like several doors,
my
and I'm
God!
like, okay, I need to know about whatever meeting went down where Pixar was like, look, no, don't just retell the movies. No, we want our characters to actually, do something.
Yeah, I feel I know that Nomura has like a deep respect for Pixar, and he loves Pixar. So like I feel like almost to me, and like I don't know if this is true, so like nobody believe me when I say this, but it almost feels like the Pixar worlds were done first, and then as development was like,
Yeah.
okay, we got to get this out, they were kind of like, okay, well, for the Disney worlds, then what we're going to do is we're going to retell the story. It could have also been a branding issue. Like Disney could have been like, you can't play in the worlds here, because I know that Disney has quite a bit of rules when it comes to their princess characters.
Yeah.
So the worlds with the princess characters probably had some like weird mishmash thing that they had to do with it. But that stuff bothered me. And then and then just the way that the story, like when you're doing those final boss fights, when you're in the Keyblade graveyard and you go into one room and you're fighting 3 people at once, it annoyed me, because I went into this game thinking, all right, I am going to fight everyone. So I'm going to get a chance to fight young Xehanort and baby Riku and Larxene one-on-one, and Marluxia one-on-one, and unfortunately, and they stuck us in these trio fights. And to me, the way that the story went and the way that the game was designed, where you were fighting all 3 at once, but when one died, it stopped the fight and threw you into this long cutscene where that character leaves, and it was extremely jarring in the area where you're fighting Terra, and then in the area where like it's revealed that Xion is there as well. Like I just felt like the pacing from like a story standpoint was choppy.
Mhm.
I felt like it was
Everything was happened at the end.
Yeah, it was thrown in. Like I would have happily fought, all 12 people, however many there were at that point, like one by one by one. But I just felt like that was so I don't want to say sloppy. Sloppy is the wrong word. I feel like it was just jammed together because someone was like, "Oh, this is going to take too much time." But like, no, dude. Like that's why we're here. That's why we're playing this game. So I feel like I got robbed of an experience that the series set me up to have. That's how I feel.
Like, there's the whole thing with well, Roxas is like my favorite character in all of Kingdom Hearts, and also I think Jesse McCartney is actually a surprisingly good voice actor.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's one of those things where I wouldn't expect it, but he's just really good. And I was like, yes, Roxas is back, but I was like, but why are you bringing everyone back? That's a little weird.
Yeah.
There's no consequence. And then the whole Xehanort is like, I don't know if you've ever seen Just a Pancakes videos on Kingdom Hearts.
I have
that
not.
are hilarious. They have, so it's like computer voices replacing the voices, but it's all it's like kind of just making fun of the story of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Like so Xehanort says like, I was actually a misguided good guy the whole time, and then there's a meme where it's just like where all the characters just say, okay, I believe you.
Yes.
With things so I was like, yeah, but you gave trauma to like like a handful of teenagers, and wait, no, what?
Yeah. My big problem with the way that Xehanort's story wrapped up is, I feel like we didn't get enough of Xehanort's trauma up front. So coming into Kingdom Hearts 3, it was like, oh, he's sad, he missed his friend, he felt like the universe was not worth saving. So let's just cleanse it and start over. And like, that's really like sad that like your villain, it makes, I think, a sympathetic villain where he's like, all of us suck. Like we really just got to start over. Like, I get it. You gotta be in a dark place to get there. And like, definitely during this pandemic, I've had a couple of days where it's like, oh, you know what? Like we did it to ourselves. And it's like, but then, him going to Kingdom Hearts Heaven with Ericus at the end was just so weird.
Yeah.
And then Dark Road came out, and it was too late. Anyway.
I gotta say though, Christopher Lloyd was not to harp on the I don't know his name, but the guy who was after Leonard Nimoy,
Rutger Hauer,
but before Christopher Lloyd. Yeah. Like, he wasn't a bad performance. It's just that voice was so jarring for Xehanort. And then Christopher Lloyd, I was like, huh, that like really works for Xehanort, I think. It's that very like raspy old man voice that sounds, it's different than Leonard Nimoy, but it gets a similar sound.
I played...
Reminds me of Page Master, since they were both in that.
Yes. I will never forget, the year Birth by Sleep came out, or when I played Birth by Sleep, I played it, and then around the same time, Leonard Nimoy actually did a talk at my college, so I got to see him speak live, and all I could hear when he was talking, I was just like, Xehanort. It's Xehanort.
You were like yelling, say the thing from...
Your fingers are a dolphin,
So, we've been going on for a while, and I still have a couple of questions. Like,
no
so
worries.
Get to. I don't know how much time people have, and I know Jason is late for Jason.
No worry. Go ahead.
I know we are all having a lot of fun though, so that's always a good sign.
Yes.
So, and this is also like a kind of a two-part thing. So like, because the answer might be obvious and it might not. All-time favorite JRPG if you had to pick one.
Oh no. I can only pick one.
I assumed it was
forever.
Yeah.
Oh, if I can only play one JRPG for the rest of my life, it would have to be Final Fantasy VI.
Ooh.
Huh.
Okay.
I still need to play that one.
6 is, to me, like one of the more, like, it's a perfect JRPG. Like,
good.
They've evolved. Like, we have a bunch of different stuff now, but for you wanting like the full experience, like a really deep giant story where you can have like fun and serious moments and like just there's so much depth to it, it's Final Fantasy VI. That game is so good.
Yeah, I need to play most of the Final Fantasy. besides 14, 15, and why do I feel like I've played another one? No, I don't think I have.
Well, most of them are on
9
PC.
is the one
so.
that interests me the most,
Yeah.
and I have it on Switch. I just haven't played it because, ever-expanding backlog and all that. And 4 I want to play because of Endwalker, of course. But, what about... part 2 was going to be like, oh, your favorite non-Kingdom Hearts game, but I don't need that now. Final Fantasy 6. What about, like, what do you think would be your least favorite JRPG?
My least favorite JRPG? Oh no.
It's okay.
I haven't.
If there's a bad one.
I haven't played anything that like I really hated. Like if we're talking about like mainstream ones, like big ones that they put out there.
Yeah, they don't have to be mainstream, but either way.
I didn't love Final Fantasy 12. We can talk about that now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. This I have to hear.
Well, it's because Final Fantasy 12 is Star Wars with chocobos.
Yes, but
It's the same.
I feel
What's
like
wrong with-
Final
I mean-
Fantasy has always been Star Wars because I recently finished A Realm Reborn, and that's basically Attack of the Clones. So I feel like Star Wars is within Final Fantasy's DNA at this point.
The thing that
What's wrong with Star Wars?
no. Like, there's nothing. Well, God. Well.
Well. No.
I like everything that's come out except for Rise of Skywalker. Anyway.
Well, that's understandable.
I did not like Rise of Skywalker. I have this thing where if I really, if a movie has like offended me creatively, I just won't ever see it again. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings person. I love Tolkien's work. And I saw The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies in theaters. And I hated it so much. I've never watched it again. I have been at movie marathons where I have left before Five Armies is played. Like, I will never watch it again. And I feel that way about The Rise of Skywalker. I just can't watch it again. I was sitting... I
did that with friends. We did a Star Wars rewatch, and when we got to the sequels, we were like, oh no.
Yeah. I saw The Rise of Skywalker.
Although I'm okay with the first two.
Yeah,
Sorry.
they're fine. I saw The Rise of Skywalker with Jared Petty, and we were sitting next to each other, and
Wow,
just every
that's interesting.
what?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and we're
Jared Petty.
we're great friends. He's in our bridal party. I'm getting married eventually. But we were
Yeah.
we were sitting there, and every time something really like eye roll worthy would happen, because we were the two people in the group who were like hyper Star Wars nerd critical, and everyone else around us was enjoying themselves, and we would both just look at each other and be like, "What? Like, excuse me? Like, really?" And it was just so crazy.
You could, if you ever actually did like see it again with Jared, and I know you probably wouldn't, but like you could do like and you'll probably, I'm sure you'll get this reference, but you could do like a Statler and Waldorf type of thing.
Yeah, we were like silent Statler and Waldorf. Like it got to a point where like my fiance and his wife were like, "Shut up, stop." We were just like, "Ooh, it's so awful." But yeah, I didn't like Final Fantasy 12 very much.
You also, and I have a bone to pick with you about this, also looks like you didn't like Yokai Watch 2 very much. No, because I'm a huge Mon game fan.
Yeah, two wasn't as good.
You know what's interesting? Because I don't know if you ever played the full version of 2, like the third version.
No, I did not. Is it good?
So that's the one. It's hard to find now because there weren't a lot of copies of it. I luckily found a copy at like a local book off store. Yeah, the big Yokai Watch fan, they always recommend Psychic Spectres, the third version, over the other two. I don't know, because I haven't played that version yet, so I don't know how different it is. I think 2 made some good improvements, but I understand it's not, a lot of people don't like that, and the Justin Clark, who did the review for Yokai Watch 3, gave it a 6 out of 10, which I only disagree with by one number, so I'm like, but yeah, I just wanted to add that in there while you were talking about this. It's like, I know I talked about it before the podcast, and Jason knows how big of a Mon game fan I am.
Oh, I know. I've edited
He hears about it way
most
too
of
much.
his Mon game articles, so I know how big of a fan he is.
Oh my gosh. I think I've only played Pokemon recently.
And yes, the Kingdom Hearts game does count. Dream Drop Distance.
Oh, Jesus God.
Even though that one's a little weird.
I didn't like Dream Drop Distance. So Dream Drop Distance was my first game review for Polygon.
Mhm.
And I just remember, I think it was like the headline was like Dream Drop Distance dropping the dream, because I was like so angry. I was so mad that drop system really messed me up. Like
Yeah,
I'd
was very annoying.
I'd be in a boss fight and I'd be like no, and then I would like get kicked, and and it just like bothered me. So many things bothered me, and that was also the game that introduced time travel. And
that was the game where everything went. Yeah.
That was the game. I literally like it got to the part where like he shows up in a room and the room is decorated with like clock symbolism, and I was like, no, please God, please don't be time travel. And then young Xehanort shows up and is like, I'm young Xehanort, and I time traveled, and I literally hit pause, put my console down, and I stood up and I walked around my house like in this like kind of like weird little stupor, being like, no, we're not going. Where are we go? We're going there. We're going there.
That was such a weird one, just in general, because it's like, okay, so what movies are we going to use for this spin-off / sequel / thing that's important? Hunchback, Disney, Mickey Mouse, Three Musketeers, Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy made sense just because they had the other Tron thing before, so it's like, okay. But the other, like, Three Musketeers, that's such a random one to have.
God, that was ridiculous. Fun fact about Tron, I had never heard of Tron until I played Kingdom Hearts 2. I just somehow missed.
I think a lot of people.
Yeah, and I just missed Tron. I don't know. My dad, I was brought up on like Indiana Jones and stuff. So like my dad wasn't a sci-fi guy, so like I watched whatever my dad watched, and we never watched Tron. And I remember playing Kingdom Hearts 2 with all of my siblings, and we found out that Tron is like a movie, so we rented it. And at the time, my youngest brother, I think, was like, oh my God, was like 5 or 6, and now he's 22, and it's terrible. But I rented it from like Blockbuster. I brought it home. I'm like, I'm babysitting tonight. We're gonna watch Tron. And my youngest brother was like, they made a movie based on the Kingdom Hearts world, and I was like, no.
That's adorable.
Oh no! And it was so funny. For years, he was like, they made this Disney video game, and then they made a whole movie about it. And then he grew up and was like, why didn't you ever correct me? I'm like, I don't know. It's cute.
Yeah, I used to do stuff like that. I don't know if you ever, back in the day, a Simpsons fan, but I don't know if you know, there's this Treehouse of Horror episode where there's like the, Homer randomly finds this space in the wall that goes into this 3D CG thing.
Yes.
And he's been trying to explain it to people, and it's like, have any of you seen Tron? And everybody's like, no. Chief Wiggum's like, yeah. I mean, no. So,
yes.
I mean, you're not the only. It's like a whole thing. So, what is the most underrated JRPG in your opinion that you recommend more people play? It could be mainstream or otherwise, whichever you think fits that question best.
Okay, well, my answer used to be the original Nier, and then Nier got really popular. So that's not my answer anymore. Yeah, so I remember being, God, and the original Nier got shredded by North American press, and I remember doing a panel. There was a panel at PAX hosted by Susan Arndt, and it was my favorite bad game that's actually good. And I did and she asked 5 people to do 5 minutes on a game, and I did mine on Nier. So when I found out through whatever that another Nier was Nier 2, I was just like, yes, but why? And then it was awesome. Yoko Taro is a madman, and it's excellent.
Yeah.
But
but why fits Yoko Taro so well?
Yes, but why? So it's not Nier anymore because there's a remake coming and people are gonna love it and it'll be great. My favorite underrated JRPG, I think, is Valkyrie Profile.
Ooh.
I really liked Valkyrie Profile because it was really weird and the music was really nice, and it was just like, to me, when I think of like, I want like a comfort food PlayStation 1 JRPG, I think of Valkyrie Profile. Because it was just, it's basically a recruitment thing. Like, you recruit your characters, you build your army. There's like this really sad story around Lenneth and everything, and I just really liked the game. It has a strong female character who wasn't like hypersexualized. It was really great. I really loved it. And I'll never forget, I had one of my previous boyfriends, who obviously is no longer my boyfriend, for like an anniversary gift, found me like a first edition print of like the disc, like the game on disc for PlayStation. Wow. So I have that. I forget who gave it to me. I'm sorry. I don't think you listen to this podcast, but I'm sorry. But no, like, I just think that game is like so fun, and it's never been re-released. Like, they had the PlayStation portable version, but like you can't really get your hands on it.
It's on mobile now.
Is it? Yeah. No.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
We also do at least have a couple of indie games inspired by Valkyrie. I believe inspired by Valkyrie Profile. Like, well, you don't like that? You don't like that they're taking?
No, I just want the original. Just please give me the original.
Oh, because there's Fallen Legion, which I played a little bit, and it wasn't bad. And then there's Indivisible, which I really like the hand-drawn animation of, but that game was a whole thing. But but they're decent games. I'll have to play Valkyrie Profile at some point somehow. Okay. Next question, and I know I don't know how, like, if you're still like super into like at like knowing which games release when every year, because some people, like, it's hard to keep track of release dates sometimes, even for us. But like, what if you have most anticipated 2021 game or games so far?
Most anticipated 2021 game? Oh crap! What's coming out this year?
Or if you have multiple. Yeah, see, that's why. Like, I was like, well, just in case.
I'm really excited for Deathloop. I like games with unconventional narrative structures, so I'm really looking forward to that. I know it's not going to come out this year, but I'm really looking forward to Yoshi P's, Naoki Yoshida's Final Fantasy 16. I think Yoshida is I think he's a creative visionary, and I feel really I guess, like, encouraged and excited that a main franchise, not MMO one, is being put in his hands. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. He's such a big dreamer and is just so positive. So I'm really expecting something really fun and awesome from him. I am looking forward to... I'm just peeking at Wikipedia.
That's fine. That's what I do.
I'm looking forward to... I mean, obviously, whenever the heck Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, might be this year, might not be this year. 30th anniversary of Zelda. I played the shit out of the original one. Like, I don't think I have sunk. But for me, it was like just like comfort. Like, I don't think I've spent so much time just wandering aimlessly in a game that I did in that. What else is coming out this year? Is it March already?
I don't know if,
oh God, why is it?
I don't know if have you ever been a Monster Hunter fan or not?
I fell off the wagon. I'd really like to get back on it because it's a really fun wagon.
Yeah, because Rise is coming out, and then my most anticipated game, Monster Hunter Stories 2, because nobody bought Stories 1 except me.
Yeah. Erroll is a really big fan of underdogs.
I think that's I think that's great.
Well, it was also just the release time, like the Switch had been out for months in the West, and a lot of people had moved on or didn't hear about Monster Hunter Stories. They didn't know what it was. So 2, I nearly teared up at that announcement because I did not think there would be a sequel. And I don't do that with games like normally. Now we have a release date announced this week, so
I totally forgot. New Pokemon Snap.
Yes.
Which I spent Pokemon Day this year with my best friend playing Pokemon Snap, the old one. Like
Aw.
It's great.
we had she's in my quarantine pod. She lives extremely close, and she has 2 dogs. I have a fairly new puppy, so we've been like socializing, and so we got drunk and played Pokemon Snap, which was
amazing.
which was a lot of fun. And then I think I'm really looking forward to seeing the Final Fantasy VII intergrade with Yuffie, because I see looks like we're getting into some Dirge of Cerberus shit. So like, how are they gonna do this? I'm really interested to see how they do it. Oh my god, Dirge of Cerberus! What a time!
Yeah.
What a time!
My copy of Advent Children sitting on the shelf over here.
Oh my god, Advent Children! I rewatch Advent Children at least once a year, just to like keep me grounded and remind me of like my humble roots. I left school early the day that came out to go pick it up at FYE with my best friend, and we watched it. 1,000 years ago. And when Sephiroth got announced for Smash, I was that extremely annoying person. I was watching it with my fiance, and he's like, "Oh my god, it's Sephiroth," and I'm like, "No, they're playing the Advent Children music. Like, don't get excited." And then the dialogue that was playing when they were speaking is actual dialogue taken from Advent Children, and I'm like, "Why do I remember this so clearly?" Like, I hate myself. I hate that that's where I am right now. Anyway.
I always point to like I always point to that one. I say like in Crisis Core, I say. What is it? One of the best fight scenes in video games, or at least in video game cutscenes, I think is the Genesis, Angeal, and Sephiroth fight. It still looks good somehow, even though it's like PSP graphic. Like, I'm like, how did they do this?
Crisis Core, my god. I'm still waiting for another game to do what they do at the end of Crisis Core when Zack's trying to fight and like you can't control, like your controls start spinning out and you can't do anything, like, and you just know
so sad.
and you just know what's happening, and it's like, fuck, I'm waiting for a game to like basically like simulate me just kicking it, like just kicking the bucket with that. Like, that was such a it was done so well. So maybe someday I'll make a game and destroy everyone with a mechanic like that.
Oh no. I thought I saw something on Twitter. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but were you in Japan for a time?
Yeah.
Or you at least been to Japan? I don't know.
I've been to Japan many times, but I studied there in college.
Okay.
I studied.
Just making sure.
Yeah, I studied in Kyoto at Doshisha, and I spent a lot more time running around experiencing Japan than I did studying, so I didn't do great. But it was like a really magical, really, I think, formative piece of my life living there for a while.
Yeah, so I it's not really studying abroad, but it was a study abroad program for me where I went to Japan for 3 weeks, and it was like probably one of my favorite trips ever.
Yeah.
It helped that one of my best friends was there, and like we had a cool group. But the reason I ask is that, one, we're for Japanese video games, and that's what our podcast is. But also, it's just like usually people who have lived in Japan and I've covered Japanese games have a little knowledge about games that like maybe haven't been localized yet. Or
yes.
So are there any particular Japanese games you hope receive localizations in the future?
Sigma Harmonix, Square Enix.
I've never heard of that.
Sigma.
Yeah.
So Sigma Harmonix
look it up.
is a music. It's like a detective game that you play on the 3DS sideways, like you flip it like a book. And it's God, like the story, I can't remember the whole details of the story, but music plays such an integral part, and like time, like playing with time and stuff in it. And the soundtrack was done by Masashi Hamauzu, who did the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. And God, like I heard the soundtrack before I ever saw the game. I heard like a track and I was like, what is this? And I found it when I went to Japan in 2015. I bought a Japanese 3DS, and I bought a copy. I found a copy of Sigma Harmonics, and I bought it. And like, my Japanese is real rusty, and it's taken me forever to get through it. But I played it, and it's so good. And like, I just saw, the other day on Twitter, Lena Rain talking about it, being like, oh my God, like, why haven't we gotten Sigma Harmonics? And I'm like, oh yes, please. Like, it's such a cool, interesting game, but it's so old at this point that I don't know that it would ever be localized. And because of the
maybe that's the
maybe
oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but maybe that's the one that there was like recent news of Square Enix, like, what was it, Jason? The giving some studio
free reign to remake an older franchise, like just one franchise.
I know it's only one game, but you never know.
I mean, if they made a version of it that worked on Switch, that would be brilliant. I don't know how that would look, but like, when you get a chance, or when you're next like working, just call up the soundtrack on YouTube and listen to it. It is so good.
Oh, I will.
So good.
I love video game music.
Me too. It's why it's really awkward when like my personal trainer's like, make me a playlist for your training day, and it's all like it's like a bunch of like boss fight music and stuff, and she's like, what is this?
Rules of Nature from Metal Gear Rising.
Simple and clean plays.
Yeah. Oh, and what was that? Oh, I forget what that's. I just saw the name of the song recently in an article. What was it called?
From what?
The Blue Dragon boss fight music. I think it's called Eternity or something. The guy from Deep Purple sang it, and it's really random.
Yes.
I need to play that game.
I mean, I think still the most random thing is Paul McCartney singing the ending theme to Destiny 1.
Yeah, that was.
I did not know that.
That was something. That was really interesting.
Sigma Harmonics.
Yes.
Yeah.
So good.
There are a lot of Japanese games that I hope. I mean, we're getting more. Like, I was not expecting Moon, the old. Who was it by? Was it by Onion Games? Like the anti-Jrpg.
Yeah.
From like back in the day to get a localization, but it did. So who knows?
There's also a there's an RPG called, oh God, is it called Time Travelers? That has like a really.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like you play as like a bunch of different characters, and like you're trying to rewind time to like save the Earth or something. I'm pretty sure that like I've never played it, and I've only read summaries for it, and I can't even remember the name. But bunch of good,
This is a level 5 game. Yeah,
yes!
This is a level 5 game. I wrote a whole retrospective on level 5. What was it? Last year? Before the whole US branch was.
Yeah, I want to say 2 years ago or the beginning of last year.
I think it was last year. Yeah, it was the beginning of last year. And when I was doing research, I came across this, and I was like, huh, this is interesting.
Yeah, it's I just feel like there were so many good 3D, like interesting 3DS RPGs that came out that we never got. We just never got.
Yeah, like the Dragon Quest Monsters remakes that I wanted so bad. They have fan translations though, at least, so that's something.
Mm-hmm.
So the last question I have written, because if you still have time,
I do.
I would like to ask a few more questions.
Yeah.
But because this is going on for a while, maybe we can separate this into several parts. What are some of your favorite experiences I know you've talked about some of them already, but like some of your favorite experiences from your career so far, like meeting devs, writing articles, going to events, etc.
Oh God.
That was a big. There might be a lot.
Yeah, no, there's just like, I'm just thinking of like everything I've done, and it's like so. Of course, when you ask me, it all flies out of my brain. I've, other than the big thing, which is making new friends.
Yeah.
God, starting all the way back at the beginning, just like meeting the people that I've met through this. some of I mentioned I'm getting married eventually. I'm actually, we're getting married in Disney World.
Aw.
And we're having a Kingdom Hearts themed wedding.
On brand.
I was going to ask, but because you're actually the second person I know. Well, actually, I don't know if they're doing it themed, but their rings are.
My fiance is the best. He was totally okay with this. Basically my idea. And when I told Disney, the wedding planners were like, "Ooh, this is gonna be fun," because it's not like one property, so it's like, you know. But you know, I met my fiance through games. I met most of my bridesmaids through games. It's been, you know, it wasn't the video games, it's the people we make along the way. Just some moments that really stick with me. God, they're all like with people that I've met. Getting to host on the Facebook stage with Andrea and the What's Good Girls at E3, I think it was 2019. Being a part of Nintendo's E3 experience when I was working for them in 2019. And no, was it 2018? Yes, in 2019. Wait, when did I start?
You said 2019.
Sorry.
For both.
Facebook.
The What's Good thing was
Facebook
I think
with
before.
Facebook with What's Good was 2017, and God, I can't remember shit. 2018 was when I was at Nintendo, and I got to you know, meet Mr. Nogami, who, you know, is the Splatoon, who made Splatoon, and he was really sweet and warm. And then I got an opportunity to chat with the Octopath Traveler developers, and those guys are, you know, our age, who grew up with Final Fantasy VI and are like, we want to make games like those again. So that's what they're doing. And I had a plate with a churro on it, and Shigeru Miyamoto stole one of my churros. He asked politely. Which was I was like, oh, okay.
Well, then he didn't steal it, right?
No, he was like,
he was like, to him.
yeah. Getting to the every single time I get to interview Nomura and just check in with him and say hi. God, I can't remember the year, so I'm just going to talk about it. Whenever I was at New York Comic Con, the year I wrote that article on Polygon about how Kingdom Hearts brought me and my siblings together. Oh no, it was I think it might have been 2014, because it was during the movement that shall not be named, and so Polygon was putting out a bunch of positive articles about positivity with video games, and I wrote that story, and the Square Enix PR team called me and they were like, can you come meet us at our booth? And I was like, oh no. I'm like, I broke an embargo. I did something wrong. And they were like, come with me. And they led me to the back of the booth, like hidden. And Nomura was there. And he was like, hey, I read your article, obviously through translator. But he said, you know, I read your article and it was very beautiful. And that's the reason I make games. Like, that really made me happy to see. And he gave me, a gift, and I've tweeted about it a couple times. I can send a picture through later for you guys if you want, but it's a set of like rare Kingdom Hearts 2 figures, and he signed it, and then he wrote, please always stay close to your brothers, and then signed it and gave it to me, and I started to like cry, and he was like, oh please, he got really shy, and he was like, please don't cry. Please don't cry. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But it was just such a like wonderful moment to like hear from the creator, like, this is what I was striving to do. And then I have a really I got to have dinner with Tabata and Ofuji-san and some of the lead developers. Yeah, some of the lead developers on Final Fantasy 15 at PAX one year. And Ofuji-san was like, I hear you're a wine girl, so we're going to drink a whole bottle of wine. So like, I drank like a whole bottle of wine with this developer, and we were just talking about inspirations and life and like things and whatnot. And it was just like really like down to earth and chill. And like Tabata and I have kept in touch. And the 15 team, I got a chance to visit them during development. And Tabata gave me a very personal gift. I don't know if I will ever share it, but someday maybe I'll share it. I'll share what it is. But they were a mystery. But they were all just like so, and I've made lasting friends from that too. Like Juan, who went on to go make No Straight Roads in Malaysia, like which is amazing. But no, just like moments with, and it was never, you know, I never felt like, oh my God, I get to meet big, cool, famous developer. It's, it's, it's the people that, I've walked away with who have become like peers, comrades, friends, and just sort of this sense of like, we're all in this industry together and like, we're all children at heart. And it's just so cool to talk to you and like, and just like be warm and fuzzy about like all these wonderful things. Like, I've gotten the chance to meet, Amy Hennig and a bunch of other, I met Kojima once. He was very sweet. Like I've met everyone, and it's just like, it's just about sharing that moment with someone who shares a passion with you. And it's been wonderful. So like a lot of my best memories come from that. And more recently, hopefully we'll get to announce it. It will be, I have a lot of stuff coming out soon, but like, I got to work with a really excellent developer, over the past year who I met in like a chance encounter. A friend introduced us as an indie developer. A friend introduced us.
So it's not Square.
No, it's not Square. Oh, it's not Square. No, but
not yet.
No, but a friend introduced us at E3, and we kind of bonded over the fact that we both really like Dragon Ball Z Abridged. And
yes.
and that sparked this like longer conversation where they were like, oh, well, like there's some Dragon Ball inspiration in the game we're working on, and we need help with writing. And like that, my collaborator is now like one of my closest friends. Like we worked all through the pandemic last year, and I don't know how I would have gotten through last year if I wasn't working on that project with them. And it was just like it one of those things that like saved me during a time of like unending strife. So for me, all of my best memories are like people, getting to like talk to people, see people, spend time with people. It's just been so good.
That I definitely agree that like meeting people has been the best part of doing this, because like when I feel like I'm not working like making enough like videos or writing enough or something, I'm like, I go see like what other people like. I'll see what my friends like, see if I can get some inspiration writing about something else, of course. Usually I'm not like straight up like, oh, I'll write about that too. But I'm like, okay, I'll see what my friends have been working on, and then I get like, usually it's, well, now I do that. Before it was conventions, because it would be like doing all that stuff at the conventions would just like inspire me to do more. And then I want to do like a ton more than usual, but it's just that it was always that kind of refill I needed to be like, yeah, let's do stuff. I saw my friends. I met new people.
The power of
like
friendship.
The time I met.
Yeah, absolutely.
I met Kotaro Uchikoshi like several times. Like briefly, which it that interview, that did not turn out good, but that wasn't his fault. That was just like a weird thing they were doing at GDC. But yeah, Uchikoshi, and I met like the producer for Monster Hunter Stories without even realizing it.
Amazing.
So I was like, oh, because it was an interview for that mobile game Teppen.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that I always kind of regret. Like, man, I should have like read about this guy way more. I should have done way more research for that. I was like, now I know for next time. And then the pandemic happened, and that's a little harder now. But it's just amazing. I think that's what I miss the most, is like just being able to go to these conventions and like say hello to people, even if it's for like 5 minutes. And it's like you never know who you're gonna meet. I think my favorite person I met at Video Games Story, actually, I was at, it wasn't San Diego Comic-Con, I think it was PAX. And I was in some panel, and I was, sitting in front row. Panel happened, panel ended, and this guy approaches me and is like, "Hi, you're Alexa Ray, right?" And I was at GameSpot at the time, and I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "My name is Ray Chase," and I was like, "Okay." And he was like, yes.
"You don't know me, but I'm working on something that I really hope you'll like. And I just wanted to tell you," and this was before the cast got announced, and he was like, "I just wanted to tell you that I really like your work, and I really like that story you wrote on Final Fantasy 15. And I was like, "Thanks, man." And like, I meet a lot of people that way. So I was like, okay. And like, follow each other on Twitter, become friends. And then he just came up to me, and then they announced the cast 6 months later, and I sent him a message, and I was like, God damn it, that you were teasing me. You were totally teasing me. And he was like, I wanted to tell you so bad, but I couldn't say anything. And now like we are, he's coming to my wedding, and like they've visited, and we've gone to Napa together with him and his wife Julia, and like we've become like friendos. And to me, like that's like the biggest, because we're like-minded people, and like it's just little dumb video game things. Like I wrote an article, he had a super bad NDA and just wanted to be like, hi, and it just, everything is here we are like full circle.
NDAs are hard.
Oh God, I have so many.
Yeah, we're hoping to get some voice actors on this at some point. I don't know when. But, a handful of voice actors stream, so I try to, like, if I see a voice actor I like, I try to be, like, active in their chat when the time lines up. So I was like, maybe someday.
We got to get you Ray, Robbie, and Max. Those guys are awesome.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That would be amazing.
They're so good. I love them so much.
I was actually just talking to a friend about, because my friend was streaming Code Vein, and he was like, oh, this dude sounds like Yuri Lowenthal, and, like, I don't want to be that guy, but like I look up voice actors all the time for dubs, and like just because it's fascinating to me, and also dubs still kind of get a bad rap from some people for some reason, but even though they're a lot better than they used to be, but I was like, no, he's like, I don't think it's Yuri, let me check, and I was like, oh, it's Max Middleman. I was like, but he was Ryuji in Persona 5, so maybe that's and he's like, oh yeah, that's why it sounds familiar.
Max, I love Max. We have a game in my household now. I have a lot of friends who are voice actors, and a lot of them played people that you kill in The Last of Us Part 2. So Last of Us Part 2, Last of Us Part 2 was extremely hard for me, because it would be like Ray screaming, Julie Nathanson screaming, and I'm like, no, I don't want to kill them. But we have a game in our house now. Whenever we're watching an anime or watching something, my fiance will be like, I think that's Ray. That's got to be Ray. Is it Ray? I'm texting him. And now it's like, so it's Ray Chase or not Ray Chase. And usually if it's not Ray, it's I pronounce his name wrong all the time.
Oh, ProZD.
Yeah, ProZD. It's either him or ProZD.
Yeah, Sungwon Cho.
I've been doing. My God, my brain is so scrambled. But no, we play Ray Chase or not Ray Chase in this household.
ProZD is great.
He's excellent. His Kingdom Hearts like little memes are so good. They give me so much life.
I've gotten a little annoyed by them, but then at the same time, it's like, no, I get where he's coming from too. At the same time,
yeah.
I don't. Oh, that's what it was. This is going to be a. I apologize to our audience, because this is not a Japan gaming focused question, but it's something I need to know personally. So Jim Henson.
Yes.
Jim Henson. So I'm a huge Jim Henson fan. Actually, when I wrote about, because I know Jason actually edited this article too, because he does everything at Parallax most of the time. But that's like a joke we have. Like, oh well, maybe Jason will do it because he does everything. Like even our boss over there says that. So I wrote an article about Bugsnax and how, well, at first it was just going to be like comparing Bugsnax to, have you ever heard of an anime called Fighting Foodons?
No.
That was also called Bistro Recipe in Japan. It's like Pokemon-ish, but the Pokemon are food creatures that chefs summon out of cards.
Oh.
Or meal tickets.
What?
They're called meal tickets, but they're cards. Yes, and it's very dated now, pretty stereotypical, but as stuff in the early aughts was, but yeah. So I was like, with Bugsnax immediately reminded me of Fighting Foodons. So I was like, I'm gonna write and like do a comparison article about it, and then I added the Muppets in because I don't know if you've played Bugsnax, but
I worked on Bugsnax.
Oh wow!
Well, I'm gonna have to send you that later.
Yeah. I did some script editing for them in their early days a couple of years ago. That's a really smart team. That game's a lot of fun.
So I was saying how the Grumpuses, very Muppet-like, and then
yes,
So
Oh, yeah.
since it was just like kind of a comparison article, Jason was like, I think you can make this topic a little better because like this is just kind of comparing what like the two, and it doesn't really get anywhere. And so I thought about it. I finished the game, and like the end where you're talking to all the characters about them reflecting on their experience, it just reminded me of my life a lot. And of course, Finding Foodons and Muppets, that's childhood like stuff. And so basically a whole thing about how Bugsnax reminded me of my life experiences by the end.
Yeah, and it turned out to be what I think till this day his best article.
I disagree. I still think the Telefang article is the best one, but and the Pokemon
awesome.
Kaiju one, but
Please send me that article.
I will. I'll have a whole list.
Yeah,
I
love Muppets.
You're
My dream is like if like someday before I like leave this earth, I really want to write for the Muppets.
Oh my god!
I love them so
and
much,
the Muppet Show
and
just got
I feel
on Disney
like
Plus too.
I know I've already watched all of it, but I just feel like
Oh,
You're a bigger fan
wow.
than I am,
yeah,
that's for sure.
I had some time off, and so I just kind of sat down and watched. I just mainlined the whole
It's
thing.
so interesting.
I
seeing
love
people
it.
experience it for the first time. Like Rebecca Valentine, who's I believe is at IGN now. She tweeted something about like, am I high? And it was that like rag mop skit. And I was like, that's exactly what I felt like, not for that skit, but for some like, what was it, like dancing? I was also very tired and it was late at night, but like, it was with Rita, no, some lady, I don't know like half of the actors in like the earlier, but there was just a skit where she was like, this lady was dancing in this diner with this like Muppet person. It was...
Yes.
I was like, what is going on? I don't understand. And you could tell when it was like a person in a suit and when it was like an actual, just like a stuffed thing. It was pretty funny. Like, in that respect. But, yeah, it's just so fascinating seeing everybody experience Muppets for the first time. And I'm like, now you understand why this is ridiculous and I love it.
I know, and there's so much artistry to
Yeah.
it too. Like the sketches where like the background is black and there's like the full body Muppets
Yeah.
that has like 3 different people
Mhm.
controlling it. Like that kind of technology and, illusion, like, illusion creation, it was revolutionary.
Mhm.
Like that's where it started. I don't know if you've ever been in Disney World during their Halloween
I've
show
never been to Disney
at
World.
night.
Only Disneyland.
Oh my God. I would live there if I liked Florida.
Understandable.
But it's
I was
too,
gonna say,
too
but
hot, too many alligators. But they have like a like their Halloween show is the backdrop of the castle and they project on it, and the master of ceremonies is Jack Skellington, and Jack Skellington is a 10-foot puppet
yeah.
puppeteered by 4 separate
Wow.
people, and they're in black and they're against a black background, and the way that the environment is set up, you can't see them, so all you see is this spindly legged Jack Skellington walking around talking like he's real, and it takes my breath away every time I see it, think about it, watch a video, because that's like mastery pioneered by
Yeah.
like Jim Henson, who like they sat down and were like, how can we make puppets like bigger and crazier and like more fun? And it's just so amazing seeing that tech, like it's tech, back in like the 70s. It's nuts.
That was
I love it.
yeah, that was one of my dad's like favorite movies, and he always wanted to do a like a Jack Skellington costume for Halloween, but he's like, but you have to be on stilts because you have to be the right height. And
Yeah, he's like 10 feet tall.
so he always wanted to do that. Well, it seems like that seems pretty familiar. So have you ever gone, because before pandemic you went to Disneyland a lot, right?
Every like 3-4 months I think I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not, I mean, That's like that's a lot compared to most people, I'm sure. I don't know.
Yes, we have a problem. Like we go for Halloween, we go for
I had friends in
we
college
go
who
for
went
Halloween,
every
we go
week.
for Christmas. Oh, wow, that sounds... I feel like that might be overkill, but then again, if I lived in LA, I feel like
We
I
were
would just be there all the time.
And we were way inland of LA. It took like 2 hours to get there, but still like not far, not too far. But that's what I was gonna ask. So like you've been on, I don't know if it's still there or they've replaced. I think they replaced it, but I don't remember. Muppet Vision 3D or whatever it was called.
Yeah, it's not in Disneyland anymore, but it's in Disney World. They still have it.
Somewhere.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same. It has not changed at all. I was fascinated by that because I was like, wait, because like when the bunny comes out and then like what's his name? I want to say his name is Sweetums. Sweetums is his name. The like full body one, which I'm guessing is a dude in a costume. But I was like, whoa, like Muppets are real. Yeah, no, now I just want to be in Disney.
But yeah, I'm a very big like. I really like practical effects stuff. So like Jim Henson, old kaiju movies, which we have we're planning something on that I can tell you about off the records because we haven't announced it yet. But just stuff like that I've always been fascinated by, and I was like, what if we got like a video game that looked more like, I mean, a motion capture is like a practical effect, even if you think about it in a certain way, but like, you know, and I always say stuff about, my joke is, when are they going to remaster Muppet Monster Adventure? The best.
Oh boy. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite PS1 games, because it's pretty decent platform, somehow. And most Muppet games are not great.
No.
But yeah, the reason I asked you about Jim Henson because I'm a huge fan, and I know you're a huge fan of Thunderbolt Fantasy, which is, you know, puppet stuff, and also it is Japanese, right? Because I know Japanese. It's confusing because there's like some other ones from, I forgot where they're from, but there's a really popular one from another country in Asia, but I totally forget the name or the country it's from.
Peely? I think you're thinking of Peely.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, Peely is a broadcast company that does. They have like a handful of puppet dramas going at any given time, and I watch their stuff on YouTube all the time. And Netflix put one of their series up with subtitles on. I think it's like War of Dragons or something.
Oh yeah.
But I love Thunderbolt Fantasy because it was written by the guy who did Psycho-Pass and Fate Zero
and the Godzilla anime movies.
Yeah, and the Godzilla anime, and the soundtrack is by Hiroyuki Sawano, who did Attack on Titan and Xenoblade Chronicles Cross, and Peely International is just masterful. And then all of the voice actors for the Japanese, they have not dubbed it, although I have lots of thoughts on if they were to cast it for a dub, who I would cast. But like one of the leads is Junichi Suwabe, who has played everything, and if you watch My Hero Academia, he's Eraserhead.
Nice.
He's so good, and all the other voice actors, like I forgot her name, but like Sailor Neptune's original voice actor is one of the characters, and they just added the guy who played All for One as one of the villain characters now. He's doing the voice acting for that, and there's a couple of people who've done JoJo, like it's just, which I also love. It's just so good. Season 3 starts April 3rd.
I did not know. I did not know there was a new season coming out for the spring anime season.
Yeah. Season 3, April 3rd. Oh, and freaking TM Revolution is in it. He's God, it's so good. I still get chills when I think about the scene from the second movie where he and the girl are playing the song at the same time and also battling to the death, like while they're singing and playing.
Well, I did not know there were movies, and I did not know he was he voice acts in it. I didn't know he was plays
he plays Rofio. He plays the character with like the red hair.
I've never seen Thunderbolt Fantasy, but it's on my list on Crunchyroll. It's on my list.
There's 2 movies, 2 seasons. Season 3, April 3rd. Oh, it's so good. I'm because it's coming out soon. I'm due for my rewatch of all of it before it comes out, much to the dismay of my fiance, but whatever.
Yeah. I don't think I have any other questions. That Thunderbolt Fantasy thing was like a bonus question. Jason, do you have anything else?
No, I think we covered most of it,
This
if
went way
not
longer
all.
than I expected, but it's
Alexa,
good.
do you Alexa, do you have anything left to discuss, or stray thoughts you want to round off?
Yeah, so I can share at least one thing that's coming up that I've worked on. So as part of the last season Kickstarter for Boss Fight, there's an anthology book coming out called Nightmare Mode that includes essays from some previous Boss Fight authors, and one of them is me, and the essay is about Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yes.
And it is about specifically the fate of Sora in Kingdom Hearts 3 and what happens, why it happens, what the metaphor is, a little bit of me personally wrapped in with it, and it does take into account the Remind DLC.
Okay, I was about to ask.
But I don't touch yes, but I do not touch Melody of Memory. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it. And it hasn't like sunk in yet. I'm not sure when that other podcast would come out, but I did record recently with Kingdom Hearts Insider, and we kind of talk a little bit about what happened in Melody of Memory, and I have a lot of theories about what the future of that franchise looks like it's going to be, so you can go listen to that for that.
Yeah, I watched I was going to get it at first, and then I was like, there were too many other games coming out around the time, so and my friend was like, you can just watch the compilation of cutscenes and you'll get the gist of the new stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll do that.
You can, or you can do what I did and beat every single song
I
on
wanted
hard,
to figure
which
out,
took a long time.
because I have the Taiko drum controller for my Switch, so I wanted to figure out if there was a way I could use that.
Oh man, that would be amazing. If you
hard.
figure that out, can you let me know? Because I have it too.
It would be a little hard. I figured it would be a little hard to do just because of the way Melody of Memory is and how it controls a bit differently than, at least because I played the demo and it does so, but I just wonder, because it is a controller, but I don't know if the hitting the drum will register the same way.
Try it.
Please try. Oh my gosh. I gotta know.
Yeah, I shall try one day. Yeah, I think. So I think that's it for.
Yeah, that should wrap it up.
Although I'm sure we could go on for hours and hours. So.
Yeah.
But Alexa, we'd like to thank you for being a part of the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It was so great. A true honor. And I hope we get to see more of you soon and more of your work soon, because I really, really love your writing, and I think we just need more of it.
And of course, you're always welcome to come back on to talk about whatever as well.
Yeah.
The other stuff we're working on too. Because
hopefully I'll have stuff to talk about soon too.
Okay. Can't wait to hear it. Well, everyone, this has been Erroll, this has been Jason, and
one quick
thank
thing,
you for your time.
Where can people follow you? I almost forgot, and Jason usually actually does this.
Oh yeah.
Where can people follow you? Social media,
keep up with your stuff.
Oh, I'm so bad at social media, but if you want to see what I'm working on, I'm on Twitter at Alexa Ray C, and on Instagram, if you want to see photos of my dog, I'm at Alexa Ray.
All right, that should cover it. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.